them up. Yossi, but 4 minutes, that's it.
Okay. אבל אם ככה אני רק
I will
ארחיב
just
כמה
say
נקודות. אחת,
something more
הייתה
about
פה
the
סוגיית
points that have been raised. First of all,
היוזמת
people were talking about the peace initiative of the Arab as a basis for negotiations. If that had been the case, there would have been some room to use it, but this initiative is a dictate for Israel. That is why we should be very cautious, and we have to understand what's the difference between the Arab peace initiative and the original initiative of the Saudis. What happened in March 2002 in the Arab Summit is that Syria and Lebanon added a paragraph to the Arab initiative. Sorry, to the Saudi, to the original Saudi initiative, and they said there would be no settlement of the Palestinian refugees in Arab states. And for the Syrians and Lebanese, this is the most important paragraph in this whole initiative. All the other things are of no interest to them. That is why, as long as this initiative is such a dictate, and it includes a reference to the resolution number 194, you can't use it as a basis for negotiations. And in the past, there were people discussed it. If that's the position of the Arabs, it's okay. They can hold on to their position, but they were never ready to see in this initiative a basis for negotiation, but only a dictate. That is why it's so problematic when we try to refer to the Arab initiative as a basis for negotiations. Secondly, the question is, well, there is this nuance that is a leitmotif in many of the initiatives that we are hearing about, and it refers to Israel, especially to the Israeli government, as the factor because of which there is no progress. Israel has to offer an initiative, a political initiative. Israel has it. It doesn't want to control the Palestinians. It has explained what are its ideas about its position in the Palestinian negotiations. We heard it from the Prime Minister's mouth in March 2011, and he talked about the consensus, including the recognition issue, Jerusalem issue, the security issue, including whatever is at stake. We are willing to negotiate on the basis of these positions with the Palestinians. At least we know what are the positions that we are going to propose. If there's a negotiation, we are going to renounce something, and they are going to renounce something. It's not that there is no Israeli position. The idea is if there is a problem with the Israeli government, that it doesn't want peace, it doesn't offer a new initiative every day, and the idea is, of course, territorial concessions and other concessions as well, maybe even to dispossess Israeli citizens, to throw them out of their homes. This is an initiative. If you say that what you want is security for Israel, this is not an initiative. It's not considered as something that is sufficient. We have a clear-cut initiative, and we want to make progress with it. We want to advance it. I am against the idea that the basis for progress should be the Olmert principles. Olmert made some steps that were not even supported by his own government, and he offered positions that are not accepted by the current Israeli government. So why does the government has to uphold these principles? It has its own principles. If there's a negotiation, if there are negotiations, okay. We have principles, and like Ruth has explained, this is a government that has been democratically elected. It represents in the best way the will of the people of Israel, and it has its own principles, and it wants to advance them. Of course, in negotiations, you sometimes have to concede, but this is negotiations, and the government of Israel is really interested in negotiations. It's not an obstacle to negotiations, and people who say it are detached from reality, and its desire is expressed in our attempts to improve the economic situation of the Palestinians. We are bending over in order to do something, and we are there in order to strengthen the Palestinian economy and also the Palestinian security. We are active in this sphere as well, and we bend over backwards in order to do such things. Thank you very much. Jibril, the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you. Yossi You know, I did not come here to exchange with you extremist and even sometimes, believe me, irrational ideas. With all my respect to you, but I am sure that you are part of the 30% of the Israelis. And I am insisting to talk, excuse me, I am insisting to talk to the 70% of the Israelis. Please look to the other side suffering. Please go and see your face in the mirror and conclude the right conclusions. You tried, we tried, both of us failed. You see, it's an opportunity for the Palestinians and the Israelis. I think that I was clear on the issue of the state of Israel, on the issue of the refugees. I said agreed solution. I said it in Hebrew and English, and you can translate it in Arabic also. I think and I believe that for the first time, almost there is a Palestinian national consensus about the two-state solution. But if you want to say, this said, okay, I can now go to a lot of statements by a lot of Israeli leaders, whom I think are sometimes were not even an honor to the people of Israel. Either Lieberman or others, but this is not my business. The mainstream in the Palestinian people, the Palestinian Authority, is to recognize the very existence of the state of Israel and their right to live in peace, security, normalization within 67 borders. The term of reference to that is the international legitimacy, not the political platform of Likud or Israel Beton or any other party. I think now there's an opportunity. We have Muslims in Egypt who accepted and are ready to respect the treaties, peace treaties between Israel and Egypt. And I think it should be a source of power for both of us, Israelis and Palestinians, to push toward the two-state solution according to the 67 borders. The Arab Initiative give the Israelis security, official recognition, normalization, agreed upon solution for the issue of the refugees. Please conclude the right conclusions. We are there, 4.5, maybe less, millions of Palestinians living under occupation. The worst threat, the worst challenge for the future of the state of Israel is the occupation, is the expansionist mentality in settlements, humiliation, aggressions, and so on. Ask yourself, did the occupation assure security for you, assured national aspirations for you? The state of Israel was established according to a birth certificate issued by the UN. Last November, also, we were recognized as an independent state. You failed and you will fail forever to negate, to delete Palestine from the political map. This is our homeland. We are here to live forever, but we want to live in peace and normalization with you as our neighbors. Please stop talking this way, and thank you.
תודה רבה. פרופסור משעל.
Mishal, please.
בבקשה.
I would like to make one statement only. Between Kuperwasser and Jibril, whoever promises a democratic Jewish state is Jibril. Because according to my good friend Yossi Kuperwasser's approach, you are ever going to live on your sword, because we are in the very extreme pole of this belief, this basic belief that we've got that does not communicate with a given reality, and we are dealing with politics here. Because according to Yossi's approach, there is no solution. And how are we going to look like in 5 years from now without this solution? We are going to be right, but we are not going to be democratic. And I'm in favor of democracy, and I'm not in favor of absolute justice. I support Rajoub Jibril with all the problems that his proposal has. We know about the pre-planned setting. You have to divide, to separate. There is a discussion about the way in which this partition is going to reduce the disadvantages. It's not. We are not going to be like a wolf and sheep living together side by side in peace. But you can't all blame the other side for everything. I have to be involved in this process. I also should not sit idly by and say, you don't recognize me, you don't want. If I get into such a process, I don't know where it's going to end. But one thing is sure, that in your proposal, Yossi, according to your proposal, we are not going to remain a democratic state, because in 5 years from now, it's going to play against us. And into the mic, please. It's just a false threat that we are not going to be a democratic state, that there's going to be an apartheid here. Yossi, excuse me. The problem is simply a technical problem of calculation of the time allotted to each one of the speakers. I know that people would like to ask questions and make comments, but we have to keep to the timetable of the conference. David, the floor is yours.
I'll be brief. It can't be an accident that the organizers asked an American to sit between Mr. Kuperwasser and Mr. Jibril, and I just have the feeling that if Secretary of State Kerry was sitting here, he'd say, "Let's get it on. Let's start talking. Let's continue this conversation." And it is a good idea. So that's the first thing I want to say. I find this debate, as intense as it is, and as clearly as it illuminates the differences and the difficulties of negotiation, encouraging, because it's the conversation that's going to happen to get to where 70% of Israelis, and Mr. Kuperwasser said he's one of the 70%, want to go. The second thing I want to say is this. It's sometimes said that nations don't commit suicide. And we think of that usually in terms of external threats. So Prime Minister Netanyahu will say to Iran, Israel will not commit suicide. We will not submit ourselves to an existential threat. But this issue also applies to internal problems or problems with neighbors. And because I think that the heart of Gilad Sher's report is right, that the survival of Israel as a democratic Jewish state depends on, requires the creation of a Palestinian state, I want to say nations don't commit suicide. So it's going to take really hard choices to prevent a blockage of this process that could lead to the death of the Jewish democratic state that is the dream of Israel. I mean, the numbers, the demographics couldn't be clearer. So I'll close with that. Nations don't commit suicide. Israel won't commit suicide. It won't do it with Iran, and in the end, I have to believe it won't do it on the Palestinian issue either.
Thank you, David. And now,
I would like to call upon Gilad Sher to conclude the panel and to refer to what has been said here during this last panel's discussion. Thank you very much. I could, of course, give a lecture for 3 hours about why you should do nothing, not to do anything, just to sit idly by. There are so many good arguments for it, but I think that lack of initiative and lack of progress and being on the same place are also very destructive to the future of the State of Israel. I will take this opportunity in order to update our guests that in the INSS we have established a center for negotiations and settlement of disputes that is there in order to support political efforts with the professional expertise and also to be a magnet for national and creative thinking. And we didn't do it, I hope it's clear, in order to push necessarily towards unilateral solutions. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is solvable as far as I understand it, and in favor of Zionist Israel, it's better for it to be solved rather than to continue. This is the very core of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and this is why it should be preferred over other initiatives. I don't think that the settlements and the territory and the borders are the most difficult issues within this array of whatever we have to do when we get to negotiations, but I do think that a border is a goal, a purpose, and that a geographical border defines one's identity, and that it also creates other borders that fade out during the years, borders of morality, internal borders, the borders of the rule of law, and other values that I would not see vanishing in the absence of a border for the State of Israel. Whatever we have proposed here, by the way, I think, Yossi, that there has not been a new idea here. This was an integrated, responsible position about how to make progress in good directions that are going to be favorable to the State of Israel in order not to have our fate decided by the opponents of peace of all sides. And none of the elements in this position can't be independent. You shouldn't isolate the independent steps that I've proposed, to isolate them from the others or the negotiation element from the others. You have to see the integration between them, and I repeat the principles in order for things to be clear. One word about the Arab Peace Initiative. I think that after I've perused it and analyzed it together with other good people, it represents, I think, a dramatic change in the Arab conception of Israel or perception of Israel. I don't think that it's a dictate. I don't think that we have ever proposed to accept it. We propose to recognize it as the basis for a multilateral debate, and I think that it would be better not to make people blind and not see and frightened because they can't see what is behind it. A few words about our willingness to go for a two-state solution and walk this lane. There is a big difference between a political declaration or a declaration of a certain leader and, on the other hand, the implementation on site. Negotiations is not a matter of declarations only, and speeches as well, and it works on the other side as well, and not in unilateral steps taken in the UN or different courts in the world. There is a huge distance between that and a true negotiation. Negotiation is something very difficult, a grueling attempt, and it needs a lot of inputs of the leaders and the people at hand. And I think that the national interest is to take this direction. I don't know, Jibril, Aburami, how many dozens or hundreds or thousands of hours of negotiation we have between the two of us, so you should always try. Keep on trying. Sorry, I can't hear Mr. Rajoub. I am saying the following. I think that in order to conclude our proposal in a way which would be clear, and brief, even after what has been said here, some criticisms and some supportive remarks. Israel has, as early as possible, not in a certain unlimited time, to take a policy, to take up a policy which is clear-cut in order to delineate its national borders, in order for them to reflect a democratic state with a Jewish majority. The solution is really a political one. I'm not saying the opposite, but this means separation from the Palestinians through negotiations. That is the best way, on the basis of official outlines, and I can discuss which outlines are there, but also in an independent way. Israel can't renounce the initiative. It's an independent initiative, and this is what we have to prepare ourselves for on the national level. We can't do it haphazardly without learning the lessons from previous rounds and previous events. This should be taken up seriously on the national level towards the day on which the settlers will be called to go back to within the borders, wherever those borders are. In other words, a first attempt is an attempt directed towards negotiation, striving for an agreed-upon solution as a result of debate, long, grueling, exhausting debate. Maybe in the middle we will have interim agreements as well. Of course, this is the way in order to get at the end of the day to the goal that we are striving for. We would like to do it with international support, Arab support as well, but in parallel we would like to make an attempt of constructive independent steps that would be taken in order to delineate the border, to advance the reality of two states to two peoples, and to do it in coordination with the United States, because otherwise we might deteriorate in a binational reality that none of the speakers in this conference would not want to have. Neither Israelis nor Palestinians nor they are guests from abroad. We also think that such an initiative, which would be pre-planned by Israel, can give a momentum to the political negotiation, and also that these steps should be taken once the government prepares itself and when it is exhausted the negotiation, in order to maintain the envelope of the territories. And one last statement, this whole idea, and I believe that this assembly of ideas is the right way for Israel, and it gives hope both to the Palestinians and to Israel as a democratic Jewish state, a secure state for generations, and not for the next news flash or the next election campaign. Thank you very much.